Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The room felt colder as I stepped into the boutique. My eyes swept across the racks, searching for my gown. I'd come for my final fitting, but something wasn't right. The sleek, modern dress I'd spent months envisioning was nowhere to be found. Instead, my gaze landed on an antique display by the mirror. A voluminous ivory gown with intricate lace and pearl beading, its age unmistakable. Ah, Evangeline, there it is. Gabriella's voice carried across the room. She emerged from behind the curtain, her presence commanding as ever, her polished smile already settling the matter before I could speak. "This isn't my dress," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Gabriella tilted her head with feigned innocence, brushing invisible lint from the gown's delicate sleeves. "Oh, I know. This is better. It's been in the family for generations. 97 years to be exact. Every bride in our family has worn it." I felt my stomach knot. "Gabriella, we talked about this. I chose my dress for a reason. It's my wedding." She waved her hand dismissively, like swatting at a gnat. "Evangeline, traditions matter. This dress carries the weight of our family's legacy. Surely you wouldn't want to disappoint." Before I could respond, Douglas entered, his expression neutral but wary, as if he'd walked into the aftermath of a skirmish. "What's going on?" he asked, his eyes darting between us. "Your mother." I started, but Gabriella cut me off. "I'm simply offering Evangeline the chance to be part of something meaningful," she said, her tone dripping with fox sweetness. "It's an honor to wear this gown, isn't it, Douglas?" He hesitated, his lips pressed into a thin line. "It's a big deal in our family, Evie. Maybe we could find a way to make it work." "Make it work?" I repeated, incredulous. "This isn't about compromise, Douglas. It's about her controlling every detail of our wedding." "Don't be dramatic," Gabriella interjected smoothly, stepping closer. "I'm simply offering guidance. You're young, Evangeline. You might not realize it yet, but these traditions will mean more to you in time." I clenched my fists, a sharp heat rising in my chest. "And what if they don't? What if I want to create my own traditions?" Her smile faltered just for a second, before returning with an icy edge. "Well, dear, let's not forget who's making this wedding possible. If it weren't for my financial support, perhaps we'd be discussing a much simpler ceremony." The words hit like a slap, and the air seemed to thicken. Douglas shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. "Is that what this is about?" I asked, my voice quieter now, the weight of her threat settling over me. "You're using money to dictate my choices." "Evangeline, no one's dictating anything," Douglas said, stepping in as though to defuse a bomb. "Let's just talk this through." But Gabriella's silence spoke volumes. She smoothed the fabric of the gown, her satisfaction radiating as she handed it to the seamstress. "Make the necessary adjustments," she said, her tone final. I wanted to scream, to storm out, but I couldn't. My anger, sharp and hot, burned beneath the surface as I stood frozen, caught between my desires and the towering force of Gabriella's will. As the seamstress carried the gown away, Gabriella turned back, her expression calm as though nothing had happened. "You'll look beautiful, darling," she said, her tone syrupy. Then, with a slight smirk, she added, "You should thank me. It's what family is for." Her words lingered long after she left, an invisible weight pressing down on me. Douglas placed a tentative hand on my shoulder. "Evie, she means well," he said softly. I turned to him, eyes blazing. "If this is what meaning well looks like, I'm not sure I can do this." His silence was deafening, and for the first time, I wondered if I was truly alone in this fight. I stared at the open laptop on the kitchen table, its screen glowing with the final version of our wedding itinerary. My dress-fitting disaster had left me simmering, but this, seeing Gabriella's fingerprints all over the plan, pushed me to the edge. Every detail, from the hors d'oeuvres to the first dance song, had been rewritten. Even the guest list had swollen, packed with names I didn't recognize. Douglas walked in, tying his watch onto his wrist. "Morning," he said absently, glancing at the screen. "You're up early." I didn't reply immediately, my focus locked on the revised itinerary. Finally, I spoke. "Did you know about this?" He looked confused. "Know about what?" I spun the laptop toward him, jabbing at the screen. "The changes. Gabriella's changes." Our plans have been hijacked. Douglas frowned, leaning closer. It's just a few tweaks. Nothing major. Nothing major. I repeated, my voice rising. Douglas, she's rewritten everything. Even the cake flavor is different. Lemon meringue, her favorite. He shrugged, a dismissive wave of his hand. She's just trying to help. You know how she is. No, Douglas, she's not helping, she's taking over. And you're letting her. His posture stiffened and his tone cooled. I'm not letting anything happen. She's invested a lot into this wedding. Money, time, energy. Can't you just appreciate that? I crossed my arms, struggling to keep my anger in check. Appreciate. I should appreciate that she's erasing me from my own wedding? That she's turning it into her vanity project? Douglas sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. Evie, you're making this bigger than it is. Weddings are stressful and compromises are normal. Why not let her have a few things her way? It's not worth the fight. The words hit me like a punch. Not worth the fight? I echoed. Do you even hear yourself? This isn't just about a dress or a cake. This is about us. About you standing up for me, for our choices. But instead, you're standing with her. He threw his hands up in frustration. What do you want me to do, Evie? Tell my mom to back off when she's the one footing the bill? That's not realistic. I froze, his words confirming a suspicion that had gnawed at me for days. Will she pay for the whole wedding herself? Douglas hesitated, his face tightening. She wanted to help, she insisted. And you didn't think to tell me? My voice cracked, disbelief giving way to fury. I knew you'd react like this, he muttered. That's why I didn't say anything. Look, it's just money, Evie. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It is a big deal, I snapped. Because now I understand why you're so quick to defend her. She's bought her way into controlling every part of our lives, and you're fine with it. Douglas leaned against the counter, arms crossed, his expression hard. If it bothers you that much, maybe we should rethink this whole thing. The room fell silent, his words hanging between us like a threat. I stepped back, my chest tight. Maybe we should. Without another word, I grabbed my keys and left, the slam of the door echoing behind me. I hadn't intended to snoop. I was in Gabriella's study, looking for the seating chart she promised to finalize. But as I shuffled through the neat stacks of papers on her desk, my hand brushed against a worn, leather-bound notebook half hidden under a pile of magazines. Something about its placement felt deliberate, almost too casual. Curiosity pulled at me, but my better judgment hesitated. Then I saw the initials embossed on the corner, GR, Gabriella's. My heart quickened, I opened it. The pages were filled with dense handwriting, sentences circling like spirals of frustration. At first I thought it was a journal, an outlet for her to vent her thoughts. But then I read, Douglas lacks ambition, his career flounders without direction. He needs constant steering or he'll fail, just like his father did. I froze. The words stung, laced with judgment and bitterness. Flipping further, I found more scathing observations, this time about Megan, Douglas's sister. Megan's gallery is a waste of time. I had to intervene to ensure she secured that lease. She'll thank me later when she finally learns to respect structure. My stomach churned. Gabriella wasn't just overbearing. She was orchestrating every aspect of their lives, undermining them under the guise of guidance. I turned another page and there it was, my name. Evangeline lacks discipline. She clings to independence as though it makes her stronger, but it's a liability. I'll handle the wedding, show her how things should be done. She'll see I'm right in the end. I gripped the notebook tightly, anger bubbling in my chest. This wasn't care or concern. This was control. Deep, calculated control stemming from her own insecurities. The sound of heels clicking on the tile broke my concentration. Gabriella's voice called from the hallway. Evangeline, are you still in here? I snapped the notebook shut and slipped it into my jacket sleeve, just as she entered. There you are, she said, her sharp eyes scanning the room. Find what you needed? I couldn't find the seating chart, I replied, trying to steady my voice. Gabriella tilted her head, a small smile playing on her lips. I'll take care of it. You shouldn't worry about these details. Leave them to me. Her words, laced with condescension, only confirmed what I had just read. My hands trembled as I forced a tight smile. Of course. Thank you. But as I left the room, notebook secrets swirling in my mind, one thought solidified. Gabriella's control had gone too far, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. The tension in the room was palpable. I sat across from Douglas in the living room, Gabriella's therapy notebook gripped in my hand. His brow furrowed as he glanced at it, but his expression remained unreadable. I can't keep pretending everything's fine, I began, my voice trembling but resolute. Gabriella's control over our lives is more than interference. It's manipulation. Douglas exhaled heavily, leaning back into the couch. What are you talking about? I opened the notebook and read aloud. Douglas lacks ambition. His career flounders without direction. I looked up to gauge his reaction, but he only shrugged. So, she has her opinions. It's not a crime. Not a crime. My voice rose. This is how she sees you, how she sees me. She doesn't respect us, Douglas. She wants to control us, every aspect of our lives. Stop exaggerating, Evangeline, he replied, his tone clipped. She's only trying to help. She's always had to step in because people can't handle things on their own. I stared at him in disbelief. You're defending her? After everything? He met my gaze, his expression hardening. She's my mother, and she's paying for the wedding. You shouldn't be snooping through her private things. That's the real problem here. I clenched the notebook tighter. The problem is her need to control us, Douglas. She's sabotaged Megan's gallery, dictated your career path, and now she's trying to dictate our marriage. Douglas stood abruptly, his face darkening. You had no right to invade her privacy. Hand over the notebook. I recoiled, clutching it closer to my chest. No. This is proof of how toxic she is. I won't let her keep doing this to us, or to Megan. You're making this worse than it needs to be, he said coldly. Give it to me, or I'll tell her everything. I froze, the finality in his words striking deep. This wasn't the man I thought I was marrying. Then tell her, I said, stepping back. Because I'm done playing her games, and if you're too blind to see what she's doing, maybe you deserve to stay under her thumb. Without waiting for his response, I turned and walked out the door, the notebook still in my hands. I felt the weight of his silence behind me, a chasm growing wider with each step. As I reached my car, I knew there was no turning back. I'd chosen to stand against Gabriella, even if it meant losing Douglas. The consequences of this confrontation were only beginning, but I was ready to face them. The first sign of Gabriella's retaliation came in the form of a frozen bank account. I stood at the checkout counter, groceries bagged and ready, as the cashier swiped my card again. It's declined, she said, her voice tinged with annoyance. Impossible, I muttered, heat rising to my cheeks. I pulled out my phone and logged into my banking app. A red alert flashed across the screen. Account access restricted. Contact your bank for details. I barely made it out of the store, my heart pounding. The call to the bank confirmed my suspicions. Gabriella had pulled strings to cut me off. Two can play this game, I whispered to myself, gripping the notebook still tucked safely in my bag. The next strike came that evening. A barrage of messages filled my phone, each one a veiled threat. You'll regret going against me. Walk away now, or you'll lose everything. I deleted them, but the unease lingered. She wasn't bluffing. The final blow came when Megan called, her voice shaking. Evangeline, Gabriella's spreading rumors about you. She told my clients you've been stealing from her and using Douglas for money. I just lost 3 commissions because of her lies. I'm so sorry, Megan, I said, guilt and fury twisting in my chest. I'll fix this, I promise. But fixing it meant one thing, going public. The following week, I met with a publishing agent. Gabriella's notebook lay on the table between us like a loaded weapon. This could ruin her, the agent said, flipping through the pages. Are you ready for the fallout? I have to be, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. The book went live on a chilly Tuesday morning. Its explosive contents splashed across headlines within hours. Tyranny behind closed doors. A daughter-in-law's tell-all. Gabriella's manipulations, her sabotage of Douglas and Megan, and her obsessive need for control were laid bare. I expected retaliation, and it came swiftly. Gabriella filed a lawsuit for defamation and sought a court order to halt the book's distribution. I faced sleepless nights, barely holding on as the legal storm loomed. But then, an unexpected ally emerged, Megan. "You're not fighting this alone," Megan said, walking into my apartment with a stack of folders. "I've kept records, emails, messages, financial documents. Gabriella's been doing this to all of us for years. It's time we fight back together." Megan's evidence was damning. Gabriella had funneled money through Douglas's accounts to control his career and secretly undermined Megan's art gallery to keep her dependent. With this information, our legal team countersued for emotional distress, financial sabotage, and defamation. The courtroom showdown was nothing short of dramatic. Gabriella, poised and unflinching in her designer suit, denied everything. But the evidence spoke louder than her charm. Emails, receipts, and even Douglas's reluctant testimony revealed her web of lies. "Do you have anything to say for yourself, Mrs. Hill?" the judge asked. Gabriella's face twitched for the first time, a crack in her mask of composure. "I did what I thought was best for my family," she said, her voice icy. The verdict came swiftly. Gabriella was ordered to pay hefty damages to both Megan and me. Her assets were frozen, and the courts issued an injunction barring her from interfering in our lives. But the true victory wasn't in the courtroom, it was in what came after. Douglas, stripped of Gabriella's influence, finally apologized. "I let her control me for too long," he admitted. "But I can't fix this, Evangeline. You deserve someone stronger than me." I agreed. Megan and I rebuilt our lives together, forming an unbreakable bond. With her help, I launched my second book, Breaking Chains. The Courage to Stand Up. It became an instant bestseller, inspiring countless others to confront toxic relationships and reclaim their lives. As I walked down the street to my favorite cafe, I noticed something remarkable. A group of women, strangers, smiled at me, holding copies of my book. One stepped forward. "Thank you for speaking out," she said. "You've inspired so many of us." As for Gabriella, her name faded from society's memory. The once feared matriarch now lived in seclusion, her reputation shattered, her power gone. One sunny afternoon, as I sipped coffee in a bustling cafe, a young woman approached me with my book in hand. "Your story saved me," she said, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for giving me the courage to leave my own Gabriella." In that moment, I knew the battle had been worth it. Gabriella's reign of control was over, and I had found not just freedom, but purpose. My life, once dictated by her whims, now belonged solely to me.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.